Good morning. This is Pastor Larry, and it's Tuesday, February the 24th, I believe, something like that. Yeah, the 24th. When you get retired, you don't always keep track of the calendar like you do. But anyway, it's a wonderful day. It's the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And life is good. It's, again, if you determine it's good, it's going to be good because it's how you look at it. It's all about our perspective and our perception. Because, and I'm going to say this. Here's why. Because if you're alive and you're listening to me right now, first of all, welcome to the channel, and the channel is LShaddai.Philly. But if you're alive and you're able to hear this right now, then what that means is that things are working. Now, it may not be working exactly the way you want, but the fact that you're here means there's things in your body that's working, that's contriving to keep you alive. Your brain is working because you're able to comprehend what I'm saying. Your ears, your auditory system is working because you're able to hear it. And if you're watching this video, your eyes are working. That whole part of your eye, that system, I forget what it's called, but it's working. And on top of that, every day of your life up until this point, Yahweh is brought you or awakened you. Now, again, you might say the alarm wakened you, or whatever, some noise awakened you, but no, Yahweh kept you here, and you're awake. It's like that saying where yesterday morning there were people that had plans for last night, who were alive yesterday morning, and they had plans for last night, and they didn't make it to last night. And then there were people that last night had plans for today, and they didn't make it today. They're not here. That's because Yahweh didn't wake them. I'm not saying Yahweh killed them, but what I'm saying is Yahweh didn't wake them today. So they didn't have the power to awaken today. Hopefully you're getting what I'm putting out there right now. And I'm going to tell you this: Yahweh is not the killer. He says that through his son in John chapter 10, verse 10, he says the thief, which is, he's not a thief. The thief comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. He says, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That would be what Yahweh's plan is. As a matter of fact, he created us in his image and in his likeness. And his son said, the words that I speak to you in John chapter 6 are spirit and life. So Yahweh's about life. He's not about death and killing you. So when people say Yahweh took somebody, no, he just didn't wake them up. He didn't kill them. He's not you know what I mean? I'll tell you what killed them. What killed them was Adam and Eve's rebellion. That's what killed them. It gave us that act of rebellion put us into Satan's domain, into his kingdom. It says he's the God of this world. And if in Ephesians chapter 2, it says that before we got born again, which is what I'm going to say next, we walked according to the course of the prince of this world, or the power of this world, which would be Satan, or the adversary. And so before we were born again, we were walking according to the path that the enemy had for us. But if you want to walk on the path and you want to achieve the destiny that Yahweh, the one who knew you before you were in your mother's womb, that's found in Psalm chapter 139. Then if you want to walk according to his path, which is better for you, because he wants to be with you now, and he wants to be with you in eternity. And if you want to walk according to that path, you have to do what his son said when he came here. He said you must be born again. And the way you get born again is by accepting the free gift of Jesus Christ, or the Messiah, or I would call him Yahusha or Yahusha. And he's Mashiach, which means the sent one, the Christ. You would have to accept that free gift of his life for yours. And it's an exchange. And if you make that exchange, then what happens is Yahweh, you're basically giving entrance, allowing Yahweh through his Son, through his Holy Spirit, and everything else, all the powers he has at his hand, to work on behalf of your life. That's really what you're doing. You're going to walk in obedience. You're not going to be directing him. He's going to direct you through his word and through his spirit that he imparts into your life. And so by accepting that free gift of the Messiah on purpose, intentionally, not just mentally assenting, you don't just say, oh yeah, he's my Lord. No, you have to make that commitment, just like a husband and wife, or a bride and a groom. They actually make that commitment out of their mouth with their heart enforcing it, or their intention, but they don't stand there silently. They actually say things. They say their commitment, their vows. They're announcing their covenant, their intention to follow and enter into a covenant. That's what they're doing. And that's what you would do. You would make your intention vocal to the God of heaven, the God of creation, accepting his Son as your Lord and Savior, and accepting God's his will and his promises, and basically saying, I want to be in your kingdom. That's really what you're doing. And so that's real. I'm not going to tell you the words to say, but that's the intention. And you're going to say those words to seal that covenant, just like a husband and wife would do. And each person's individual, and so you may come at them a little different, but you have to come through the same doorway, which is through his Son, the Messiah, Jesus Christ. So how you say the words, it might not be the exact words I would have said, but your words and your intention, just like the vows, the wedding vows. Everybody doesn't say the exact same thing, but their words and their intention are to be in a covenant with each other. So anyway, so today is a little, it's actually a progression from last week's teaching, which was called Don't Get It Twisted. And today we're going to talk about, and again, I say this over and over again, is I really believe we're in the last days, end times. We're going to talk about deception. And like, for example, I've been seeing a prime minister from a country that has been at war recently. And you see some videos there because they thought people were saying that he may have been dead. And the way our society, the way our world is, our culture is right now, we have so many tools for deception. And so some of the videos proclaiming that he was alive, some of the videos were, you could tell after looking at it closely, it's from some internet sleuths or detectives. You could tell that they were AI. Like, for example, one of them I saw where I believe him and Ambassador Mike Huckabee were walking down the hallway, and you saw a person in the background leaning against the wall. Well, when they zoomed in on that person, the person had 3 feet, and his thumb was turned the wrong way, and you realize that this is an AI video. And so anyway, deception is in Luke 21 and Matthew 24, the first few verses, they account for the same scenario. The same thing happened. And so it's just different perspectives. Matthew's writing it and Luke's writing about the same scene. And the disciples come to the Messiah and they talk about how this temple is so gorgeous and awesome. And he says it's going to come a time when not one stone will be laid upon another. And he is inferring it's the end times. And so the disciples, in both cases, they ask him, well, tell us, what will be the signs of this? And he says, and the first sign he says is, which is inferred and implied, because he doesn't say this is a sign, but the first thing he says is, do not be deceived. That's the first thing he says. And then Paul says that in Thessalonians and also I believe in Timothy about deception. And as a matter of fact, he talks about delusion, where because people don't want to trust Yahweh, that he gives them over to a strong delusion. And so anyway, it's talking about deception. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is if you look in Genesis, in the book of Genesis, you'll see that the very first encounter with the adversary that's recorded is deception, because he goes and tells Eve that if she disobeys what Yahweh said, or that what Yahweh said isn't what he meant, is really even a better way to say that. He said, oh, you will not surely die. So he's bringing in deception. So deception was there in the beginning. Deception was at the inception almost. That was a play on words. But a deception was there in the beginning with the adversary or Satan, where he's coming to Eve, telling her that Yahweh didn't mean what he said. Whereas we all throughout the Bible, Yahweh's reinforcing that when he says something, he means it, that his word is true and that he doesn't lie. And so the enemy comes to bring deception in the beginning. And then the Messiah is telling his disciples that deception is also going to be at the end. That's going to be one of the most important things. So I'm bringing this up because one of the things I've said numerous times as I've ministered over the years is that about deception, that the antidote for deception or the cure for deception is the truth. And the truth is the word. As a matter of fact, it says it in John chapter 17, verse 17, where Yahushua or Jesus, he says, thy word is truth. And it also says that he's the word. And it says that in John chapter 8, he says, if you'll continue in the word, you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So the truth is, again, if we will continue in it, didn't say if you have a passing acquaintance with the truth, but if you will continue in the truth, you'll know the truth, and it'll set you free. And he says in your word, his word is truth. And one of the things my sister and I, my youngest sister and I have been talking a lot is about this seed war that's going on. It says that again in the beginning in Genesis chapter 3, when in verse 15, where Yahweh says to Satan and to Eve, he tells Eve that her seed is going to bruise crush the head or bruise the head of the serpent, and that serpent's seed will bruise her seed's heel. And so he's talking about seed, and so the enemy recognizes that. So just like with Yahweh, his thing is to distort the seed or to disrupt the seed or to convert the seed some way, that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want Yahweh's seed, he wants his seed. As a matter of fact, that's what he says he will be like the Most High. In other words, he wants to be like him. He wants to have his seed take precedence. Here's something that the Spirit of God, or the Ruach, said to me. He says, if I didn't want apples, I wouldn't have created apple seeds. So he creates seeds because of the fruit that's really going to be produced. That's why he created everything in the beginning with the capacity and the ability to propagate. In other words, he wanted fruit. He didn't want just the seed. That's what it's all about. It's the fruit at the end. As a matter of fact, the Messiah, Yahushua, he says, by their fruit you'll know them. As a matter of fact, sometimes seed can look similar, but it's the result, the end result, the fruit will determine what it was. Just like this story of the wheat and the tares. All of a sudden they were sown together, and you really couldn't distinguish them until they grew up. That's why he said, wait until the harvest, and then we'll separate the wheat and the tares. But I want to just read this about seed, because we're talking about seed a little bit. Listen to this. It says, Matthew 13, verse 19. It says, hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. Again, the word, the seed. This is he which receives seed by the wayside. But he that received the seed into stony places, the same as he that heareth the word, and with joy receives it, yet he doesn't have root in himself, but endure for a while. But when tribulation and persecution ariseth because of the word or that seed, by and by he is offended. Verse 22, or is it 23? 22. He also that receives seed among the thorns is he that hears the word, and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. Again, it's letting you know that the word is the seed. Verse 23. But he that received seed into the good ground is he that hears the word, understands it, which also bears fruit, brings forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Now, if you think about it, the seed is consistent. It's really the ground that the seed is implanted into. And the ground, here's what the ground is. The ground is like, in a way, is almost like the womb. The ground, based on the womb, that seed comes in. And that womb, which is prepared to receive that seed, that womb just does what womb things do. So the ground is and it's us. And it's how we determine what type of ground we are. The seed comes. The sower sows the word. The seed comes. We make that determination what type of ground we're going to be to allow that seed to produce. Like, in other words, we make the determination through our will what type of ground we're going to be. And because that word has come into us, we have the capacity to produce the fruit. And it's all about the fruit. The seed is going to be the seed. It's a seed war, but really it's a fruit war, if you think about it. Because just like it says, Abraham's seed, Eve's seed, it's about what is produced. That's why even this parable is telling you the different fruit, or the different results, because Yahweh's looking for results. That's even with the other thing, the other parable where he gives like talents. He's interested in how we make that decision, our decision on how we receive what he gives us, so that we can be prepared for it to produce. The one who buried it and didn't allow it to produce the fruit, he said, "You wicked servant." So Yahweh wants us to not be wicked. He wants us to be the ones that are prepared to receive the seed he gives to us, to let it replicate itself. Now, again, it's an act of our will that we make the decision on how we're going to receive Yahweh's word and what we're going to do with it. Are we going to just say, "Oh, that was a good word today"? Or we're going to say, I'm that womb that's going to allow that seed to produce the fruit that Yahweh's looking for. Because he's looking for us to produce fruit. He's looking for us to replicate based on that seed. And like he said, if I didn't want apples, I wouldn't create apple seed. If he didn't want to replicate, he wouldn't give you the seed. He wouldn't give you the word. But he wants that word to produce in you. And what does all that have to do with deception? Well, if that word produces in us the fruit that Yahweh desires, then we're not being deceived. We're going with the word. We're making an active will to be in compliance and acceptance with Yahweh's word, and his word is the antidote for deception, because his word is going to produce the fruit that his word is requiring, as opposed to the tares. It'll produce, like in that parable, the wheat and the tares. His word will produce wheat. The enemy's word, or not believing Yahweh's word, or distorting Yahweh's word, will produce tares. That's what the enemy. So, for example, in Genesis, when the Hasatan, or the adversaries, said to Eve, he didn't say a total lie. He said some truth. He said you'll know good. You have the knowledge of good and evil, and in a way, he probably had his fingers crossed behind his back, saying, "You'll not surely die." He was probably saying, your soul and your body won't die, but he didn't tell them about their spirit, the part of them that was in Yahweh's image and likeness. He says, "Oh, you won't surely die," and again, that was a half truth, because Adam and Eve did not die on that day, but Yahweh said, "The day you eat of it, you'll surely die." So their spirits died, which is right away why they looked at themselves differently. Now they're saying, "Oh, we're naked," because now their spirit wasn't primary. Now their soul and their body was, and their soul being their mind, their will, and their emotions, and that now all of a sudden everything took precedence. It was in the natural, instead of what was in precedence before was the spiritual, or the word of the Most High in his realm. That's why Yahweh was able to meet with him in the garden in the evening. He was looking forward to doing that again. And it says that all of a sudden, because they disobeyed Yahweh's word, so now that fruit wasn't producing, they made a decision on what type of ground they were. We don't believe your word. So they made that decision, and as a result, they got the fruit of the enemy, and they didn't get Yahweh's fruit. So again, the antidote for deception is the word of the Most High, the whole word, the unadulterated word, not our take on it, but what he said. See, if we will listen to his word and allow his word to produce the fruit because of the decision we made, which is, I'm going to trust you in your word. Here's one of the things I've done over the past few years or so. I've been reading the Bible. I'm 68. I've been reading the Bible since I was 12. Every day, pretty much every day. I started reading a chapter every day almost. And I may have missed a few, but not a lot. But so think about it. I'm 68. I've been reading it, 68, and I've been reading it since I'm 12. I was 12. But what I've done recently, over the past 2-3 years, is I decided to read it as though I didn't understand it and didn't know what happened before, as though I never had read it before. And so, as a result, the Word is saying so much more to me now because I made a decision to allow the Word to say what the Word says. And I allow the Word and not what I've heard, not what preachers or other people have told me. I allow the Word. I just read it as though I've never read it before. And I allow the Word and the Spirit. Yeshua said that the words I speak to are spirit and life. I allow the Spirit and the Word to give me the comprehension that I need. So in these last days, this last time, which I really believe, we need to really couple with the Word. And when I say couple, I mean like latch onto and allow the Word to produce. Really, that's really what we're doing. He says, and allow it to direct our steps and everything. He says His Word is a lamp unto our feet, light unto our path. Let the Word come in. And it may say, it may say, oh, that's corny or whatever. That's not really possible. It really is possible to allow the Word to be what the guiding force in your life, just like I said earlier in Ephesians chapter 2, where it says, before we were born again, we walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, which would have been Satan, the adversary. So we were stuck in these courses in the path that He's had for us. But what happens is, once we get born again and we'll listen to the Word, our God, He guides us and directs us out of the path that the enemy had for us, and He guides us into the destiny that Yahweh desires for us. We never get that if we succumb to deception. If we allow, because we respect somebody else, we allow their words to change us or taint us, like Eve did. She allowed someone else's word to change or taint the words that Yahweh had given her and Adam, and said, okay, well, maybe this fruit isn't that bad. And listen, I don't care how good somebody looks, how good somebody sounds. If they're not saying what the Word says, I'm going with what Yahweh said, always. And kind of like I said, what He said. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to put that out there, that we're in a time of mass deception. I believe we've been under that for a while, but I believe it's starting to heat up or percolate, and that we need to. So what we should, if we want to, is we need to make a decision to allow the Word of the Most High to guide our steps, to be what we turn to as the ultimate authority, not to Google, not to Alexa, not to Siri, not to our computers, but to the Word of the Most High, and listen to His Spirit as His Spirit guides us. Anyway, love you, and I pray the best for you and your family. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and listen, if you've subscribed in the past, make sure you're still subscribed, because sometimes the YouTube messes up. And also for the sake of the algorithm, to make sure that these videos get out to as many people as possible, make sure you hit the like button and hit a comment, because comments and sharing, what that does is it causes the algorithm to notice this video, and it starts to send it out to more people that may need some of the words that are coming out. So I really appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to reach out to me directly, the email is pastor.lshaddai@gmail.com. So love you. I pray Yahweh's blessed on you and His best on you and your family, and that you would be blessed, and not just be blessed, but recognize it, because you really are. If you're awake and alive, you're blessed, even though you may not understand it and recognize it. But I pray that you would recognize how blessed you are to be alive at this time, to be aware at this time, to be functioning at this time. And you may say, well, if you're saying it's the end time, why is it being blessed to be alive at this time? Well, because just like it says in the book of Esther, who knows, you were created for such a time as this, because Yahweh trusted you to be alive at this time. Now, it doesn't say all that part, but Yahweh trusted you to be alive at this time. He needed you to be alive at this time, and he wanted you to be alive at this time. So you're here. He's here. May as well make it a marriage. May as well make it a covenant. Yahweh bless you and your family. Shalom.